What's up, everyone out there in social media? Welcome to another edition of the Houston Roundball Review presents Folks Talking Sports. I am Kris Gardner, owner of the Houston Roundball Review, and right now, with me, Andy Yanez of everything else, the Community Impact newspaper, Pawd, Slama, Jama, Let's Rage Coogs. Did I forget anything, sir?
Gallery Sports for UH Athletics.
Gallery Sports for UH. Yes, forgot about that. Yep.
A few other things.
So, like I said, the young man is busy.
Drag on the list.
So, Willy Gibson should be joining us from, if he's still on the road, heading from Cleveland to, we lost Andy, from Cleveland to Columbus. Willie was at the Browns game. And later in the show, James Mueller will join us. So we'll still have a full show. But since Andy's here, and I was at the Rockets game Friday, I did not get a chance to tune in to Friday's edition of Let's Rage Coogs, the number one official post-game show for Houston Cougars football and men's basketball. I did not get a chance to tune in to you guys to get the vibe on the miraculous comeback that the Cougs football team made Friday night to win by 1 point over Memphis, 33-32. So what were your thoughts, your reactions? What was the vibe of the show? Andy?
I had connection problems there for a second, Kris. Sorry about that.
No problem. There we go. You're live, man. Roll with it. Let's go. Tony M., how are you doing? Thank you for timing in.
I couldn't hear your question. Did you just say reactions of the game on Friday?
Yes. What was your first, you personally, what was your reaction to the comeback?
Well, even before they officially came back, well, I guess I'll just start with improbable is the way to put it. When Memphis went up by 19, 26-7 at the beginning of the fourth quarter off a beautiful touchdown that had been set up by the Memphis receiver, and it was a 41-yard bomb that he was able to connect with his running back, Asa Martin. And after that happened, I like a lot of UH fans, I thought the game was over at that point. And it had seemed a lot of the same old. The Houston offense struggled. The defense, for the most part, they came out the gates in that game shaky, but in the second and third quarters, they held Memphis to just 6 points. But then it seemed like they had let go of the rope just a little bit in that fourth quarter. And then, kudos to Houston because they drove down the field. They scored a touchdown. They didn't give up. They kept fighting. I think when Jason Rogers scored the 100-yard kickoff return touchdown, that's probably the first time when you're like, okay, things are starting to get interesting. Now, it was a bit tricky because the defense was a lot of bend but don't break in that fourth quarter because Memphis kept driving down the field. They kept holding on the field goals, which at the end of the day is what saved Houston. Mm-hmm. And then the crazy sequence at the very end where the penultimate drive for Houston, they're faced on a 3rd and 10. They decide to go a draw with Stacey Sneed that goes absolutely nowhere. It sets up a 4th and 10. And I thought Clayton Dune was going to get sacked. He was swarmed by a whole bunch of Memphis defenders, and somehow he avoided all of them. He galloped for the first down. He avoided defenders. And then in that same drive, they faced another 4th and 7, and he was able to make a play with his legs, but this time finish it with his arm as he found Tank Dell. And then they were able to find Keyshawn Carter, I believe, a couple of plays later, and then they recovered the onside kick of all things. And by that point, you could tell that Houston had all the momentum out of all the energy in that crowd in Memphis. It was a rowdy crowd, and a lot of fans that obviously we've touched on in the past in the show, Kris, where every time Houston and Memphis play, it always seems like it has an extra buzz around it. Especially recently, one of the true rivalries in the American Athletic Conference that Houston has, in my opinion. But it had been a complete 180. They were able to finish that drive with a touchdown. And at that point, whenever they were up by 1, there were still 18 seconds left. So the way the season had gone, it wasn't easy to be able to declare Houston were going to be the outright winners. But then to finish off with a sack, to see the joy, the excitement. You could tell it was a big weight off of Dana Holgorsen, that whole coaching staff shoulders when they cut to the camera and you had Holgorsen, Doug Belk, and I believe it was Brian Early. They're just hugging on the sidelines after the win. And you could even hear it in Holgorsen's post-game conference. I think the biggest takeaway from that was the gutsy fight that the team showed. They could very easily thrown in the towel. They were about to go into the bye week, and instead they buckled down and give kudos to them because they had one incredible comeback.
I'm going to try something. I'm not sure it's going to work. I may have to do some finagling. And so, Andy, you tell me how this sounds. We got Willy Gibson on the phone first. I'm not sure because I'm plugged into my earbuds how it will sound, but we'll see how it goes. Mr. Gibson, say something and see how it goes with Andy.
Yes, sir. Good evening, gentlemen.
Andy, can you hear him at all?
I could hear him.
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Sound good, Andy?
I can hear him. He's a little faint, but I can hear him.
Okay, well, let's go with the flow, Will. We may have to, cut it short with you, but hey, it's okay. Live show, we adjust here on Talkin Sports. No problems. But Willy Gibson.
Yes, sir.
Were you surprised, shocked at the Houston comeback?
All of the above. In interest of full disclosure, I'll be completely transparent. I forgot the game was on until I received your text. And so I watched the third quarter and halfway through the fourth. And with about 8 minutes to go, to be completely transparent again, I fell asleep. And I woke up.
Wow.
And the call said 33-32. And I'm like, I must be dreaming because I know they were getting it handed to them.
Yep.
And I said, they really came back to win. And they really taught me. I said, you know what? I've been so focused on Dana Holgorsen, and it is what it is. But these are players. These are 18 to 22-year-olds. And those kids fall back. You said it. The comeback shows the team hasn't quit. So kudos to those teams, those young men to fight back.
Yeah. Andy, was that a sense that you guys mentioned during the show on Friday, Let's Race Coogs, that the team had not quit, the players had not quit?
Absolutely. That's something that I think that was one of the things that you have to lead off with, just in terms of that fight, because like I said, they could very easily let go of the rope with the way the game had gone. They were down 19 points at 26-7. It's very easily. And the way the game had gone, where they had tough breaks, where the offense had two different possessions. They got inside Memphis's 5-yard line. They couldn't come away with 0 points. And obviously the brutal play at the end of the first half, where it looked like they had at least a field goal secured. There was 5 seconds left. Holgorsen and the staff opted not to try to score a touchdown, instead opt for the guaranteed 3 points. And the problem was that those points were not guaranteed, and Bubba Baxa missed it far left that it completely
one of the worst
missed the net.
21-yard field goal attempts I have ever seen, man. He shanked that bad boy way left.
And when that happened, it just gave a good a microcosm of how that game felt. And I think Will hit it exactly on the head to show that fight by the team. One, it shows that they weren't checked out. They still overall believed in what they're trying to their goals for the season that they had been talking about, especially with the way the first 5 non-conference, or the first 4 non-conference games had gone, and even the first conference game against Tulane. But now they're 3-3. They're 1-1 in conference. They're going to be in their bye week, and I think Holgorsen touched on it after the game. It's big for a few reasons. One, they're in the bye week. They're at 500. It can serve kind of as a soft reset, because obviously Cincinnati and UCF, those seem to be the 2 clear-cut teams so far, and it's still early in the American, but you give yourself a chance, which is the most important thing. With the remaining American Athletic Conference schedule, they get a chance to regroup, and the word Holgorsen used momentum. They have some positive momentum heading into the bye week. It makes it much more easier to reevaluate where they are, coming off a win, than it is a loss. Most importantly, it at the very least, it might have saved a job of someone on the staff when it comes to coordinators.
That was my next question for you, Will and Andy, but Andy, you first. What was the sense when Houston trailed 26-7? Were you getting tweets, direct messages? This man has to go. This is a disaster. This is a failure. Dana must go. Then the comeback happened. But what was the vibe when it was 26-7 Memphis?
Well, I mean, the whole week leading up to it, after they lost to Tulane, there was a lot of there was a lot of that from Houston fans that they had been frustrated with Holgorsen, and Holgorsen addressed it himself in the post game press conference, where he acknowledged, there was a lot of noise after the way the first five games had gone, and it's something leading up to this game against Memphis. And the entire season, we hadn't seen Holgorsen directly address it. He addressed it multiple times, specifically in one of the radio shows that he does when he joins ESPN Houston here, the local radio station. ESPN's not local, but the local station in town affiliated with ESPN, and he addressed it point blank. He said Dana Holgorsen's not going anywhere. He had the support. Then you had the Houston Chronicle article where it said that Tillman Fertitta still supports Dana Holgorsen, but just overall that they were acknowledging there was a lot of noise around Holgorsen's job, which, to be honest, I had they checked out, I don't think he would have been fired. I think it would have caused someone to have to take the brunt of it, and that comeback really cooled off a lot of seats. And for the moment, it gives a lot of relief for Holgorsen and his staff and for the administration, because you could see, again, it goes back to the camera shot where he's hugging Doug Belk and I believe it's Brian Early. That's just relief. That's relief right there, and excitement in the win.
Will, let me ask you, in your opinion, does that fourth quarter comeback save Dana Holgorsen for this season?
For this season? No, it's too much season to go. I can't definitively say that. No.
Andy, what do you say?
I think after hearing what Holgorsen said leading up to the week, I can't see Houston moving on from him. They could go. Now, granted, if they go 3-9, that means something went really wrong the second half of the season. But again, going back to all the money that they have invested in him, the buyouts, the back, I think that's an important thing, where he still has Tillman Fertitta backing him, at least from the report is. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think at worst, if they continue to have the up and down season that they had the first 6 games, there'll be changes in terms of the staff. But I think the most important thing that Holgorsen pointed out whenever he went on the radio show early in the week is that they have a lot of moving pieces. The Houston football program overall has one, overseeing the construction of that football development center. 2, the transition to the Big 12. He said that there's a lot of moving pieces in the way they're recruiting and stuff like that. And 2, just the staff too, because they have a lot invested in Doug Belk too, who, I mean, we talked about it the previous season, what the Houston defense was able to do. Then they gave him an extension too. He's making over $1 million to be the coordinator for Houston. I don't see it. I don't see, for Holgorsen specifically, I don't see him going anywhere, barring and even from the team overall. I don't see this happening with Houston, the team, because we saw it in the Memphis game. That's still a team that they're still invested in the season, and I don't see them, worst case scenario, going 3-9. There's no way they fall out like that, in my opinion. So I think Holgorsen's here to stay. Okay.
Tillman supported Dana, made a statement that that Dana will be here for the season. One of the conditions was changes to the offensive play calling, right? That was stated, correct?
In the Houston Chronicle article, correct.
Okay, so did Dana take over the play calling in the game against Memphis, or was it still Shannon Dawson calling those plays?
Well, that was something he didn't address specifically post game, but there was certainly a difference in the way the calls were being made, and specifically there was a much drastic change in the fourth quarter. Now, obviously, a big reason for that is because you're down 19. You have to, at the very least, do your best to try to make a rally. Clayton Tune ended up throwing the ball 57 times, which, again, that's probably not what Houston wants in terms of being a recipe for success. But there were a couple of times where they were much more aggressive. And again, you hate to play that would have, could have, should have game, but they were able, and some of it's the way Memphis played, but they were able to move the ball much more better than they had in previous games, specifically weak comparison from how they did in Tulane. The problem was they weren't able to capitalize.
In the fourth quarter or all game?
Well, in the fourth quarter specifically, I think throughout the game they had their moments. Now they didn't come away with points when it comes to the final drive in the first half, where they were able to get within the 10-yard line, and then the other drive, I can't remember how that one was set up. I think it was off the turnover the defense had faced off the fumble that they forced, and they turned it over. And again, they were able to get within actually at that point they got within the 1 yard line, and they tried to, on third down, they tried to do a QB sneak with Tune, I believe, and then on fourth down they tried to run it in. They just couldn't push Memphis's defensive line at all, so they came away with 0 points. They were in position to score, but I know what Holgorsen said leading up to the week, that there was going to be a philosophical difference in the way they called plays for the first 3 quarters, that they were held to 7 points, and that's the biggest takeaway, is they still got long ways to go. Now, maybe they found something in that fourth quarter where and it's something a lot of fans have pointed out, they were playing much more up tempo. Again, a big reason for that is because they were down 19, so they needed to do it. But they were just being more aggressive in the fourth quarter, and that's the difference. That's what fans have called for. That's what a lot of followers.
That's what we have called for, being more aggressive.
Exactly, and you saw that they were. Now, here's where I say where it was different. Clayton Tune was, granted, with the exception of the interception where he and Andre Ware called it out during the broadcast, where he was locked in with Nathaniel Dell the entire way when he threw that pick. He did a much better job of spreading the ball around, because there were a whole bunch of different receivers. And the big emphasis, Christian Trahan has come back into the Houston offense. He has resurged.
Tight ends back in the offense. How about that?
He has a resurged. We talked about it against Tulane. They were targeting him. He wasn't able to make some of the catch-ups. They were targeting him. Against Memphis, he was very, very actively involved, and especially in the goal-to-goal offense. There was a couple of times that they dumped it down to him and see if he could break a tackle or two and see if they could score that way. So he seems to be much more involved in the offense. But then overall, I mean, Matt Golden, I think the first 2 or 3 passes of the game went to Matt Golden specifically. And Keyshawn Carter, he made a lot of big plays for Houston overall. And even the defense, after the shaky start, they were able to do a good job in the second and third quarters and to not let Memphis run away and hide. And again, in the fourth quarter, they gave up a lot of yards, but they were able to stiffen up when it counted and hold them to field goals. So really, that game was just a microcosm of the season, because they have it right there. It's in flashes. It's in flashes where they have things to build on. Now, the question is, can they build on them and be more consistent? And they have 6 games to prove it.
Consistency will be a key. They're off this week, Navy next week. That should be a win. Andy, based on the comeback against Memphis, do you believe this will be, you and Will, Andy, you first. I mean, Will, you first. Do you believe this comeback win will be, not could be, will be a springboard to them turning around the season and finishing strong?
It could. I mean, what you said, Navy after the bye and
USF after that.
South Florida.
Yep.
South Florida's tough. I watched them take University of Florida to the wire. Really should have won. A missed field goal late for them in the swamp. So it could. I mean, again, like I said with the earlier question, it's too much to buy. I mean, you probably would like to ride this momentum into the game next week, but to have a comeback like that, take a week off, it can be good, but that kind of thwarts some of your momentum a little bit. So maybe it's not good. South Florida, I mean, it could be. It could be. I know it's a lot to say. I don't know, but it could be.
What do you say, Andy? Do you think it will be a springboard to a successful season?
Navy, USF, SMU, Temple, East Carolina, Tulsa. I kind of disagree with. Well, I think this bye week is the best thing that could have happened for Houston, for a couple reasons. One, I mean, 5 out of the first 6 games have been battles that have literally 5 of those games came down to the final possession, which is absurd, and that's something that Holgorsen has addressed. They're exhausted, but the players are exhausted, the coaches are exhausted. So just from a physical standpoint, they need time to rest. To address your question specifically, Will, I'm still not there.
You're not convinced, are you? Not convinced, are you?
I'm not, because 6 games is half the season. That's a large sample size, and so far they've been inconsistent. Where I mean, 3-3 is the perfect record for them, because that's been the story of the season. They've showed brilliant flashes where they look like the team heading into the season everyone thought they were going to get. And then there's also times specifically with the offense where they just can't move the ball. And it's crazy when you look at the quarter-by-quarter breakdown how absurd the team is, because in the fourth quarter, Houston is outscoring opponents. And let me pull it up so I can have the exact number. This was leading into the game against Memphis. And I'm trying to bring up
we'll pull it up, but because fourth quarter Friday was 26-7.
Exactly. So I have it. So this was leading up to the game against Memphis. This was before the Memphis game. Houston was outscoring opponents 21-17 in the first quarter, which actually is surprising in terms of the struggles that they had offensively. Now 14 of those 21 came in that Kansas game.
Yeah.
So they had scored 7 points through 4 games coming into the game. But I think the most important thing is that they had only held opponents to 17 points. So that shows the defense, for the most part, coming into games, they do a good job at the beginning. The big problem for Houston has been the second quarters where they were being outscored by opponents 63-20. I mean, and that right there had been the difference in the game. The third quarters have been even. Again, this is not counting the Memphis game where opponents were just barely outscoring them 38-34. And then the fourth quarter, Houston has owned the entire season, outscoring opponents 54-22. Well, now add in the Memphis game to that, and it was a little bit different in the first half, but Memphis completely owned the first quarter. They outscored Houston 14-0. In the second quarter, Houston won it, but they only scored 1 touchdown. It's not like it was an offensive explosion. They had been able to hold Memphis to just a field goal. Third quarter, Houston goes scoreless, but they only hold Memphis to a field goal. And then in that fourth quarter, again, more of the same. The Houston Cougars owned the fourth quarter. They outscored Memphis 26-12, and really they outscored them 26-5 after the first. I can't remember, it was the first play that Memphis scored on, but it was very early in the fourth quarter when they scored that touchdown. So that just shows how inconsistent they are overall, because they can't sustain it. And kudos for them. Again, they fought. They mastered the fourth quarter, and I mean, they came away with a victory. Now that's why I think the bye week comes at a perfect time for them, because they can evaluate, and hopefully the offense can look a lot more like it did in that fourth quarter. And maybe maybe Holgorsen decides to take control of the play calls. Like I said, he didn't address that specifically post game. I'm sure that's going to be something he gets asked. Now they're going to be off. There's going to be no media availability for Holgorsen this week, so they'll have the whole full week to evaluate and whatnot. But maybe it is maybe whatever was the difference, they need to look more like the fourth quarters and how they have the whole season. Now, a big reason why they have won those fourth quarters is because they're down in a lot of those fourth quarters. They have to make rallies. True. And I think that's the biggest thing. Coming into the season, there was talk about how Holgorsen wanted to establish the run. He wants to control time of possession. Well, Houston has shown that so far hasn't really been a recipe for success. And at the end of the day, especially in college football, it seems like they have much more success with an up-tempo style that spreads the ball around. And at the end of the day, it's forcing the defense have to be reactive instead of a lot of times trying to establish the run.
And I'm going to bring in James Mueller now to get his thoughts on it. He was part of the Let's Rage Cougs on Friday. James, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Pretty good. Since I missed Friday's Let's Rage Cougs, I was at the Rockets. What was your reaction to the comeback? Were you shocked?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
you're so chill about it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think it was gonna happen, especially no signs of life at all. But that special teams play, Jace Rogers, that return was the spark the Cougars needed. But yeah, I was completely shocked. I did not see that happening at all.
James, do you believe that comeback in the fourth quarter could salvage the Cougs season and propel them to 3-3? Let's say finishing the season with a 7-game winning streak.
Yeah, for sure. I think that comeback for sure saved their chances of going to an American Athletic Conference title game. Now it's going to be hard to host one, but the conference is iffy. Cincinnati almost lost to USF yesterday. There's a lot up in the air, so there's definitely possibilities for that. I still don't think a New Year's Six Bowl is realistic, but
Agreed. Yep.
In terms of competing for a conference title, I think that win over Memphis, that comeback, I mean, it kept hope alive. There's still going to be work that's UH probably has to win out, and they need a little help having, Tulane and Cincy or some of those teams lose. But there's definitely a little more hope.
And I'm going to ask all of you, Will, you first, that you're the outsider from the Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. Let's say Houston, the Cougs, win at Navy on October 22nd, setting up a home game on the 29th against South Florida in Houston at TDECU Stadium. Do you believe it'll be a very good crowd? Let's say for Houston, 30,000 or more for that game.
From what I've heard and what I know so far, no. No, can I say something? Because I can't hear the other gentleman.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to ask, because you said, 3-3, if they're on a 7-game win streak in the season, they get to go 9-3. But they almost have to, because if they slip up and lose one, 8-4 gets you fired in Houston, right? Is that what I heard?
That's what the president said before. Yep, 8-4 gets you fired. Yep.
So he almost has to win out. So the pressure's on.
Andy, James, what about that?
I know that's what Renew Couture said, but I don't see Dana Holgorsen getting fired if they go 8-4. To be honest,
James, do you see Dana getting fired if they go 8-4?
No.
James, do you see 30,000 people to come see Houston play USF on the 29th?
No, I mean, they couldn't. They couldn't get it last year when they were on win streaks, and that was a ranked undefeated SMU team when they were on like a 6-game win streak. No one cares about USF really, so no, it will be another.
I'm shocked. Are you saying that a 2-game winning streak this season won't get the Cougar fans to come out in droves to see them play USF?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know it's kind of crazy, but
Andy, what do you say? 30,000 for USF?
no chance.
No chance. Damn. But that's reality. That is reality. That is truly reality for Houston Cougars football. And I'm going to put it up there for everybody. I'm going to mention to Will. Do Will, Andy, James, do any of you see Houston finishing 8-4 or better this season?
Or better?
It's either 8-4 or 9-3. So it's only two.
No.
Okay, Will says no. Andy?
I can see it just because of the teams they have left to play, and specifically when you look at the schedule, we talked about Navy and USF, which are the next 2 games. That November 5th game at SMU at the beginning of the season, that's probably the one. At least when it came to the conference slate coming in, we thought would have probably been the difficult thing. But SMU's they've been off to a shaky start themselves. They have Temple, East Carolina, and Tulsa. I think that East Carolina game. Honestly, at East Carolina, USF might be the 2 toughest games, at least as of now. But based on the schedule, I think it's totally doable. Now, I think the biggest question is not the opponents, in my opinion. It's UH itself. That's the biggest question.
Okay, Will, I'm going to run down the schedule for you. Remaining schedule at Navy, win or loss?
Navy should be a win.
Home for USF?
I think they lose against USF.
At SMU?
They'll beat them.
Home for Temple?
They'll beat them.
At East Carolina?
I'm sorry.
East Carolina.
East Carolina? I don't know a lot about East Carolina AAC, so my lack of knowledge, I'll say they'll beat them.
Okay, and then wrap up home against Tulsa.
I saw Tulsa last year. I don't know what they're doing this year. They came to Ohio Stadium and played the Buckeyes kind of tough. Scotty Montgomery, right? That's the coach.
Yeah.
Dang. What is that? Is that at Tulsa?
No, it's in Houston. It's in Houston.
Last game of the season.
You know what? This is certified. I'll say they'll lose it. How about that?
Okay, so if you do that, that'll be 7-5.
Right.
But if they win that, they're 8-4.
Right. See what I did there? I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Because 8-4 gets you fired, allegedly. Well, what 7-5 gets you?
Another extension.
Another extension. And let me say this. I'm going to be petty, messy, all those things that I've been accused of. No, I don't care. Please, Houston administration, I do not want to see any sort of announcement this week that you have given Dana Holgorsen one more year an extension because Houston came back from 19 down against Memphis and won. Please don't do something silly like that because you did it last year going 12-2 against a trash schedule. And this is why you're in this mess you're in now. But please don't do something foolhardy. Hey, we're doing it again. We get a comeback. We're on the right track. The players didn't quit. We're going to get one more year. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Okay. Well, I got you on the phone with Andy and James. I want to talk about this. I'm kind of curious about all you guys on this, but Will, I'll come to you first. Victor Wembanyama.
Yes, sir.
Young man put on a show this week in Henderson, well, last week in Henderson, Nevada. But, Will, for you, based on what you saw, are you ready to proclaim him a Hall of Famer?
Oh, no. No, I thought you were going to say number one overall pick without question. Number one overall, yes.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. But no, there are people already, ESPN folks, NBA folks, declaring Victor as a Hall of Famer. Has not played one game in the NBA, and yet folks are already declaring him a Hall of Famer. Andy, what do you say about Victor Wembanyama as a Hall of Famer?
That's ridiculous. You cannot. There's so much hype, and granted, it's deserved, and what he's shown so far, it's certainly promising. But no, he's not a Hall of Famer, so he hasn't stepped a foot in an NBA court yet. And I don't care how good he looks until he proves it. You can't declare him a Hall of Famer. Now, granted, what he has done, it is impressive. I think it was Woj that said it, that by the time January and February rolls around, we're going to see tanking by a lot of these NBA teams that we've unprecedented. Man, now I can't even talk.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Talk about that in a second. James, what do you say? Is Victor Wembanyama a Hall of Famer? Right now.
No, you look at how many have been busts. You got to step out on that NBA court. Even if, he's got to have a career. He could have a great rookie season and then fall off.
Thank you. You got to have a career. So all four of us, none of us are proclaiming Victor Wembanyama a Hall of Famer. Top pick in the 23 draft? Yes. Hall of Famer? Hell no. Okay, so let me say that. That goes to ESPN guys, NBA guys. Shame on you for saying that right now. Based on what you saw in 2 games against Scoot Henderson's team, the G League Ignite. Whatever. Will, I'm getting old, Will. I'm getting old. Okay?
No, but he getting better.
Thank you for saying that. I'm getting better. But I'm surprised. Andy touched on it. Woj touched on it. I had my show last night with Rocket fans. There are Rockets fans, who want the Rockets to tank this season in order to improve their chances to get Victor Wembanyama at number 1. Your thoughts on that, Willy Gibson?
I can see that because, while I won't go as far as saying he's a Hall of Famer, now he is a generational talent. 7'3" with a good fan to do what he does. Yeah, I can see that. But, that's, sacrificing one season. And then, with the lottery and the new weighted system that Adam Silver came up with, there's no guarantee that would happen. If you did say it.
Thank you. That's my main point. You do not. It's not a guarantee you will get if you have the worst record in the NBA that you'll get the number 1 pick anymore. So, Andy, based on that, what are your thoughts on the Rocket fans, not Spurs fans, teams that have less talent than the Rockets, but Rockets fans wanting them, and it's not a lot, maybe 20%, want the Rockets to tank this season to improve the chance to get Victor Wembanyama next year.
Well, they can want all they want, but I don't think when you look at the NBA landscape, you mentioned the Spurs, the Jazz, probably add in the Thunder with all the injuries that they've had. I don't think the Rockets can be worse than those three teams.
No Spurs, no Utah, no OKC, probably Indiana as well.
Yeah, throw in the Pacers, and then you look at the core that Houston has. I mean, they're not going to be competing, barring drastic leaps. I don't think they'll be competing for play-ins, but I don't think with the talent they have, I don't think they're bad enough to be able to be in that mix. Now, they have been the past 2 years finished with the worst record, and they haven't had the number 1 overall pick. So
exactly,
at the end of the day, since it is a lottery, I think what's most important for these Rockets is to show improvement from a lot of these young guys and show that progress is being made. And especially for Steven Silas, that's probably the most important thing for him now that he's entering his 3rd season, I believe, leading the Rockets.
3rd year, Coach Silas, correct.
So really what the Rockets should be looking at, the Rocket fans should be looking at, one, how does Jalen Green look in his 2nd year? Has he taken a giant leap forward? For Houston, how does Jabari Smith look? I know there was a lot of Houston fans are reactionary when it comes to how he played in the summer league. But Jabari Smith is going to have a lot of eyeballs just in terms of he's the big prospect that they got this season, and they have to come and make a decision on KPJ. What are they going to do with him going forward? That's the things you need to watch for now. Granted, if the bottom falls out and they are one of the worst teams in the league again, well, then you go from there. But if you're not, I think that's most important to be able to see what the development is, because you have been the worst in the league the past 2 years, and it hasn't got you the number 1 overall pick.
James, what do you say? Do you think the Rockets should tank to get Victor Wembanyama?
No, just like Andy said, nothing's guaranteed. If you were guaranteed the pick, 100%, because you're not going to – I mean, I don't think they'll have the worst record in the league, but they're not winning a championship this year.
Right.
So,
okay.
If it was guaranteed, but with the lottery, you look at it, I'd say they're probably not top 4 or top 4 worst records in the league this year. I'd say they'd be like around 6 or something. So your chances there already. And then, top 4, it's a gamble. There's no guarantee. You could end up with the 4th pick. And so, no, it's all about developing these young players. And hey, if you you'll get a lottery pick this year. If you somehow run in,
and if you win the lottery, draft Victor. Yes.
Yeah. Get it. But you can't just plan your season around him, because I mean, you're leaving way too much up to chance if you're just planning on, we're going to lose every game because then we'll get Victor. I mean, you could lose every game and the team with the 4th worst record in the league could get Victor.
Exactly. You guys thank you for having my back from last night's show. The 3 teams with the worst record, each will have a 14% chance at the lottery to win the lottery, get the 1st pick. Willy Gibson.
Yes, sir.
What win-loss total do you think the team with the 3 worst records will have? The Spurs. Give me a win total for the Spurs this year.
Oh, wow. 17 to 65? I don't know. I'm straight spitball.
Okay, 17. Yeah, I think that might be high for Victor this year.
I know.
Yeah.
Right?
But Andy, what do you say? 17, worst record in the NBA, 17 wins.
That might be too high, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. Andy, James, what do you say? 17 over or under? Worst record in the NBA.
Under. I'd predict the Spurs between 13 and 15 wins, if I'm being honest.
13 and 15 for the Spurs, Will. James says 13 and 15. 13 and 15 wins. Okay. So I can see that possibly. The Rockets have their young talent is too good for them to be that bad. Okay. And then be that bad 3 times. I don't see it. Don't see it happening. Not because they win the lottery. Yeah, they could win it. They could be 30 and 52 and win the lottery. Then draft Victor. Great. No brainer. But for them to have the worst record in the NBA, ooh, no. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't care what Woj says. The Spurs, Utah, OKC, Detroit, Orlando, Indiana, you have to suck mightily to finish with one of the 3 worst records in the NBA. Mr. Gibson, Draymond Green. Let's talk about Draymond Green, the punch against Jordan Poole. I don't want to go old school first. I want to go Willy Gibson. What do you think the Warriors should do to Draymond? Not the person who leaked the video, to Draymond.
Truth be told, I think they're done. I think they're done with the shenanigans. I think they're on the phone right now. I don't know if they can do it before the season, but I think they get him out of there.
Like be a trade?
Yes. Yes.
Andy, what do you say? You think the Warriors will trade Draymond?
Based off the video, I could see that happening if they really are done with them. I don't see it. I think they'll stick with the core because I think he has proven that he is an important piece to that Warriors core overall. But I guess Jordan Poole is kind of, maybe they could create it. I don't see it. Long story short, I don't see it just because of Clay, Steph, and Draymond. They have that core together, but it's certainly a tradable offense, for the lack of the phrase, based on the video and how it looks, just without specific context on what the whole drama leading up to it was.
James, do you think the Warriors will trade Draymond?
They're not going to trade him. They won't even suspend him. Like,
Oh, you don't think they're going to suspend him? You think they're done? You think that Draymond taking some time away will be enough?
that's what I think they're going to do. I don't agree with it, but I think come opening day, Draymond will be out on the floor.
Huh. Okay, Will, do you think the Warriors will do anything to Draymond? Suspend him, or is it done? His stepping away right now is enough.
I think for me, call me crazy, call me whatever, but I think they allowed him to save face. Why, I don't know. This one player decides, you know what? I'm gonna take some time away. I think this is the suspension. I think they just allowed him to put flowers on it. And his choice to say, okay, go out there and say you're gonna take some time away. But I think this is Bob Myers and Steve Kerr and Joe Lacob saying, hey, this is it. Give us time to work the phone.
Okay. Well, how long do you think Draymond will be away?
However long they decide, that's the thing. That's the thing. I don't know, but I don't know this is of his own volition.
Okay.
I do not believe that at all.
Okay. So since you're of the mind that they're going to trade him, so there's no question in your mind that he will not be back this last year as a free agent. The Warriors, he's done in the Bay.
Once this deal is done, it's a wrap. But that's interesting. I checked this, and I don't know. I've heard so many people say this is the last year of the deal, but I looked, and where I looked at his deal, he has the player option for next year. So I don't know where this is coming. This is the last year of his deal. This is year 3. It's a 4-year deal. So I don't know.
And see, that's a great point, because player option, he is not turning down that money.
Absolutely not.
He wants an extension, and the Warriors will not give him an extension. Let's be clear on that. That's not going to happen. Well, Andy, James, what do you say about that? If the Warriors won't trade him, and if Steph, what would Steph say? Draymond, I know, but the punch was bad. I know, but he still helped us win 4 championships. I want him here. What if Steph says that? Andy?
And if he says that, Draymond's not going anywhere.
Well, okay. If Steph said Draymond, I want Draymond, Draymond's not going anywhere, Will.
Oh, facts. I agree with that, but I think he didn't burn his bridges with Steph. I think the punch is the last straw across the board with everybody in that organization. Because here's the thing, I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. These are the things we know. How many things, and Chris, you know this.
Yes.
How many things do we not know that they slipped in the rug that never saw the light of day?
Yes, very true. And that's a great point. I mean, Thursday, when word got out that the players and his teammates said Draymond went too far this time. This is before the video was leaked. Word got out that he went too far. We knew something, it was bad. For the players to say that he went too far this time. And then the video comes out. It was bad. All right, that haymaker he threw, that's a bad look. It's bad it was leaked. Now let me go old school, like Steve Kerr and Reggie Miller and the old heads. Guys I covered when I was Andy James' age, a little older. Fights like this happen all the time in practice. Not all the time, but a lot in practice. And what happened in practice? We saw it, nodded our head, and kept our typewriters closed and moved on. It wasn't that big of a deal. All right? Rockets, Detroit, Bulls, Knicks. It happened. This stuff happened a lot before TMZ, money, social media, all those things. Now, KDC can have a point here about nobody wants to be punched at work. In the NBA, it's a job. Obviously, Jordan Poole does not want to be hit and clocked. But, hell, I'm pretty sure, how can I phrase this without getting in trouble? I'm sure hands have been thrown in college practice. Will? Okay. That we haven't heard about. That haven't been leaked. That charges have not been filed. So, don't get me wrong. I know some folks say, well, they should have been filed. It shouldn't happen in practice. It shouldn't happen anywhere. Okay. Different generation. I'm telling you how I grew up and what I grew up and what I saw. I saw a lot of stuff in my 30 years of covering basketball. A lot. Different generation. Andy and James, they might have reported. They might have, if they had been in practice at UH, they might have made a story out of it. I don't know. Who knows? That might be why Kelvin Sampson says practice is closed to avoid stuff like that. That might be. In fact, I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Andy and James, the youngsters of the group. If we were at a Houston Cougar practice, which is pretty rare, but if we had a chance to watch an hour of practice and some stuff happened, some stuff went off, and hands were being thrown, and Coach Sampson, the staff says, guys, don't report it. Would you guys report it?
No, I would not, because then, we're never going to be inside of a practice ever again.
James, would you report it? Andy said no, Will. James, would you report it?
No, if Coach Sampson tells me not to, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to risk any future, not being able to cover anything in the future.
Okay, Will, they both said no. If Coach Sampson told them not to report it, they wouldn't report it. Okay?
Ask me.
Will, would you report it if a coach told you not to report it? He said, Will said, hell yeah, he'd report it. Why?
My job, I don't work for UH. I don't work for Kelvin Sampson. I work for my outlet.
Okay, all right, but what if it's at Ohio State?
Yes.
Will's reporting regardless. He's reporting it.
Yes.
You're different than me, Will. You're different, but I respect that. You're different than me. Okay.
You wouldn't do it?
No. Oh, heck. I didn't do it before. No. I've seen, trust me, folks. Tony M, KDC, D-Skills. I've seen stuff in some practices here in town. And y'all be like, what the hell? No. Nope. Wouldn't do it.
All right.
Wouldn't do it. And I can tell you guys off the record about some stuff. Y'all be surprised at one of these stories I would tell you off the record. But yes, all right. Kind of enjoyed that conversation right there. Different take.
No, just full disclosure. I'm never getting on Ohio State practice. They don't, that's not happening. But, yeah, if I saw something, I would do it. Yep, sure would.
Okay, hey, that's fair. And let me put this on the screens for folks. Will Gibson talking to us on the phone. So in case you want to touch him, contact him on social media. Will Gibson 7 is his Twitter account. So there you go. Put it on the screen right there. So yeah, Willy Gibson 7. And while we're there, sir, as we wrap up this show, we talked about Draymond and Victor Wembanyama and the Coogs come back. Give us a Browns report and a Buckeye report, sir.
Oh, wow. Well, the Browns today, hey, before I do this, I'm going to do it, but I want everybody, because this will make sense to what I'm about to say. Google, at the end of the show, give you a little homework, Google Jarvis Landry contagious. Just Google that. And you'll see a clip. Jarvis Landry was in his first training camp with the Browns. About 3 minutes, and it'll explain, and you'll understand everything I'm about to say. The Browns just don't know how to win. They dropped 2 and 3 today. They lost to the Los Angeles Chargers 30-28. The 3 losses this year, they lost 30-28 today to the Chargers. They lost 31-30 to the New York Jets. And they lost 23-20 to the Atlanta Falcons. And all 3 of those games, they've had fourth-quarter leads. They just don't know how to finish. And, yeah, it's a 60-minute game. There were things earlier in the game that happened, but they just have to learn how to finish. And until they do, and they have to understand that they're playing with a backup quarterback right now. As great of a guy, and he is a great guy. As great of a guy as Jacoby Brissett is, there's a reason he's a career backup, and I hate saying that because he's a great guy. He really is a great guy, but he's just not starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. Today, late in the game, 3rd and 7 on the 9-yard line. Browns down 1. Actually, they were down 2. 30-28. They were down 2. Inside the 10-yard line, he threw a end zone interception. And he plays great for the first 57 minutes. Each loss, he's had a crucial turnover late in the fourth quarter. And they just don't know how to win right now. So they're 2 and 3 right now. Bill Belichick, the Patriots, coming to Cleveland next Sunday afternoon. And we'll see what happens from there. Now, the Buckeyes ran their record 6-0 against Michigan State. 49-20, actually. 49-20 yesterday in East Lansing. They had the offense for C.J. Stroud, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. Marvin Harrison Jr., 3 touchdown receptions. You know, gets it from his daddy, the Hall of Famer, Marvin Harrison Sr. Ohio State goes to the bye at 6-0. They get ready for Iowa on October 22nd. And now it's just getting healthy and avoiding the hiccup. You know, a lot of people think Iowa has played Ohio State tough in the past. They should be the hookup. I personally think it's the week after, October 29th, to get at Penn State, which is a noon kick. You know, no good for the Buckeyes. It's not a night game and a whiteout. And then some people think Maryland. You know, the week before Michigan, October 19th, at Maryland could be the bump of the road for Ohio State. But I think Ohio State's bump of the road is, again, at Penn State, October 29th. And they just need to stay healthy. They stay healthy, stay on track. And I don't see why they're not 11-0 November 26th playing Michigan at the Horseshoe. And that's the thing. Michigan needs to come in at 11-0. They play Penn State this week. Penn State's coming off a bye. So they had 2 weeks to get ready for Michigan. Michigan comes in here 11-0 on November 26th. That could be another 1 versus 2 for the Big Ten East Championship. So, you know, we'll see.
Mr. Gibson, how can folks find on social media, sir?
They can find me on social media, as you said, at Willy Gibson 7 on both Instagram, or as the kids say, the gram, as Andy reminded me yesterday. They can catch me on the gram, and Twitter at Willy Gibson 7, Facebook Will Knows, and WTGsports.com.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. You take care.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, Willy Gibson from Ohio, Columbus, the Ohio State University, on the phone. Technical difficulties on his end with the stream, so we had to adjust on the fly and do what we do here. These final moments of Folks Talking Sports of FTS. Wanted to get Andy and James' thoughts on this, and our colleagues, our folks who are tuning in, who are tuning in on FTS, either on YouTube or at our Folks Talk Sports Twitter account. What's his name? What's it? Jeff Goodman, right? Jeff Goodman,
Correct.
who announces annually his list of not so secret scrimmages that college teams, men's college teams, have against one or two opponents. And you received a tweet, Wednesday? Was it Wednesday this week? Earlier this week, someone tweeted about Houston and Duke scheduling a scrimmage, roughly, whatever. Right?
Yeah, they had tweeted about it before Goodman's report.
So that was before the report. I did some checking and confirmed it and got a few more details about it. The matchup is scheduled for October 29th. The Cougars will scrimmage against the Longhorns October 22nd in San Antonio. I kind of know the location, but it hasn't been confirmed, so I won't put it out there for San Antonio. But just want to get you guys' thoughts on Houston scheduling, or I flip it around, Duke scheduling a scrimmage against Houston, and what that, in your opinion, indicates for Houston men's basketball.
Oh, Chris, I'll kind of echo what you said in the past. It just shows where the program is from a nationally relevant standpoint, that Duke wants to schedule a scrimmage because it's a two-way street with Houston. I think that speaks highly of, one, what the coaching staff has been able to do, where they have put Houston on the map, and two, of the talent that Houston has. And it's mutual respect from a program like Duke when you see really where they view Houston in light. We've talked about where the media views them. There's multiple outlets that have them as a top 5, most of them top 3 team in the country. And I think Duke scheduling a scrimmage acknowledges that. And it's just a testament, like you were saying during the, as we were waiting for the practice on Friday, where Houston's come a long way from the dark times, as you phrased it.
Yes, dark, bleak days. But James, what do you think this indicates for Houston men's basketball, about Houston men's basketball?
Yeah, Andy hit it right on the head. I mean, it just shows the national respect Kelvin Sampson and his program's gaining, and a lot of these schools in these not so secret scrimmages try to schedule, high caliber, or especially like, the blue bloods try to schedule, some high caliber people, because it doesn't count and it's a good measuring stick. So the fact that Houston was on that list and is going to play against Duke, that just shows that they've got that national respect from one of the all-time great programs.
And let me say this to our viewers and ultimately our listeners when it's on Spotify, Apple, and iHeart. This is a scrimmage, okay? It's not even an exhibition game. It's a scrimmage. And most likely it's going to be 3 20-minute sessions, okay? A scrimmage. Yes, they'll keep score, kind of. But basically scrimmages will work on zone offense, zone defense, different sets, full court presses, things of that sort. The coaches will agree on what they want to work on, and that's what they will put forth in the scrimmage. Okay? So there might be box scores that are leaked, that are tweeted out. Don't read into it, because it's still a scrimmage. The box score may not be specific details about this 20-minute session, this 20-minute session, etc. So if word gets out about the Cougs wax Duke's ass in a scrimmage, still a scrimmage. If Duke wax Houston's ass, it's still a scrimmage. Okay? 3 20-minute sessions. You might hear somebody report a score of all 3 sessions combined. It could be, 75-55 Houston. But it could have been a scrimmage of Houston won one of them 30-29. Another one be Houston won by 10, and then one of the other scrimmage by 9. Whatever. It's still a scrimmage. So the main point is Houston is now considered relevant, that Duke wants to compete against them and get better against competition like that. That's what it represents to me. Now, what I would like to see happen, putting out there for Andy, James, in the universe, and I don't know anything about this, but what I would like to see happen from this scrimmage is a home and home between Duke and Houston. If that happens, then that is games that count. That's another step in the equation for the Cougs being nationally relevant to get a Duke program to come to Fertitta Center. Not Toyota Center, because Andy, James, you have heard Coach Sampson does not want to have those matchups against big-time programs at Toyota Center. He wants them to be at Fertitta. That's where the home court is for Houston, right?
Yeah, and he said it multiple times across various seasons.
So just keep that in mind. I'm not trying to be Donald Downer or anything like that about Houston scrimmage and Duke. It's a scrimmage, okay? The important thing is it's a level of competition and respect that the Cougs are getting by facing Duke in a scrimmage. And yes, I know more than I'm saying about possible locations of this scrimmage. I ain't saying all that, okay? Until it's confirmed by Houston, I'm leaving that alone. Andy Yanez, how can folks find you, sir, as you wrap up this edition of Folks Talking Sports? How can folks find you on social media?
Yes, sir. They can find me on Twitter at Ayanez_5. They can really support me and the show. Well, our Let's Rage Coug show. Obviously, the streams here on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel after each football game. Coming soon. We are now under a month until the first game from both the men's and women's basketball teams. They tip off November 7th. Monday, obviously, the men's basketball team is going to tip off at Fertitta Center against Northern Colorado. That'll be the first Let's Rage Cougs following the men's basketball season opener. So be on the lookout for that. Obviously, we still have 6 more football games, post-game shows, so you can follow us on YouTube. Support the new Pawd Slama Jama YouTube account. That's PAWDSLAMAJAMA. I have that locked down. We are now, last time I checked, we're at 310 subscribers, which we're on the road to 1,000. We're 31%. No, yeah, 31% of the way there after just launching a month, which is good. And once I call it, getting good at branding. I have to brand myself the one-stop shop for all things UH football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. We have clips from Holgorsen's and the players' availability, Doug Belk, and we have, anything you could ask for, men's basketball availability, women's basketball availability, your one-stop shop there too. And then on TikTok and Instagram, Let's Rage Cougs, all lowercase. It's just Let's Rage Cougs. I actually do have the banner for that, like you see it on the screen. Let's Rage Cougs on Instagram and TikTok. We're similar. It's just about promotion. It's about branding. And if you are interested in advertising Let's Rage Cougs, the fastest growing show, Let's Rage Cougs at gmail.com. We are beginning to buckle down for sponsorships for the men's basketball season.
Correct. And well done, sir. Well done to both of you guys for Friday's Let's Rage Cougs show. You guys did without me, and that's what I want to see. Y'all carry that. That's Andy's baby. Andy, you run with it. James, you're contributing to it. Awesome. It's all part of the expansion of the Houston Roundball Review brand. This evening, I think at 5 o'clock this evening, so 2 hours ago now, Adolphus Moore did his AD, the AdMax Corner wrap-up of the Texans' win over the Jaguars. So I think the Texans now have the same number of wins as the team I used to root for, the Washington Commanders, who are one of the worst teams in franchise in all of sports because their owner is an incompetent ass. So anyway, James Mueller, how can folks find you, sir, on social media?
Yeah, follow me at JDM2186 on Twitter, and then check out the dailycougar.com for all my UH athletics coverage. And
I want to say this, put the Folks Talk Sports Twitter account on there. Coug fans, we're all alums or soon-to-be alums once James graduates. Support the Cougs. Support us. Cougs supporting Cougs. What Andy's doing, what I've done for years, what James is doing and will continue to do, support us. I'm kind of surprised. No, I'm not. I'm not even going to lie. The videos, the press conferences that Coach Holgorsen, that the Houston Cougar Athletic website, Houston Cougar Athletic YouTube account posts under UA's Content Solutions. What a name. Doesn't have more views. Well, I think the post game after Friday's win over Memphis, last I saw was 500, 600 views for Coach Holgorsen's post game show after a thrilling comeback win. Where else are you going to watch that? Okay, that's a road game, right, Andy?
Jama with clips. Yeah.
On Let's Rage Coogs.
But
okay,
yes, sir, it was on the road, and I'm not sure how many Houston local reporters were there. I know the Houston Chronicle was there. From the video, it seemed like he was the only one asking questions, and Joseph Duarte does a great job covering for the Chronicle. But outside of clips that were limited with not other stuff.
So,
I just checked it right now. It's at 1,600 views.
Okay, good. So it's growing.
It's growing. But I will say this, like you said, off a thrilling win, those, and I know from experience with the Pawd, Slama, Jama YouTube account, they seem to do better when they lose than when they win, which that shouldn't be the case.
Right. So support the Cougs, win or lose, but especially after that comeback win and how they won in dramatic fashion. Support the Cougs, watch that channel, click on the video, get the views up, like the channel, all those things, because it's part of supporting us, supporting our alma mater. And if you're not an alum, supporting the team that you root for. This is all part of being a big-time athletic program. Because once again, I've said it before, and I'll beat this horse into a coma till it dies. If we don't support Houston athletics, who will? If we don't support us first, it's really hypocritical for us to go out and say, well, why don't you support the Cougs? Well, do we? Well, not really. I kind of do. Well, then. It's up to us first to support Houston Cougar athletics. James Mueller and Yanez, Willy Gibson, as always, thank you very much. Thank you to Jamon M, Y Citizens, Tony M, D Skills, H-Town, Red Lobo popped in here, Rockets fan. He was on the Let's Talk Houston Rockets last night, and I'm going to do that again tomorrow after the Rockets play the Heat on the road. Going to have another show. As always, guys, thank you very much for taking time to be part of the show. We'll see you next week. Until then, take care. Peace.